President Tinubu honors fallen heroes, unveils emblem of remembrance for 2025.
If we have no security, you cannot promote peace and development.
VP Shettima calls for government and media partnership to spur national growth.
One thing we want to assure Nigeria and the president is that the media are committed to the democracy.
Storm in the House. Assault allegations place Alex Ikweche under spotlight.
Our rules must be complied with. He should go and sit with our Committee on Ethics and Privileges.
Today on Good Morning Nigeria, we shall focus on power outage in the north. Way forward.
Nigeria's power sector has been riddled with challenges for decades. Aging infrastructure, inefficiencies, and some say corruption. For our viewers in northern Nigeria, these issues often translate to relentless blackouts.
Well, absolutely, Ademola. The north especially bears the brunt of these power problems. Now, much of the infrastructure dates back to the 70s and 80s. Now, Nigeria's generation capacity stands around 13,000 megawatts, but only a small portion, about 30%, reaches the north.
And that's true, and the problem don't end there. Weak transmission lines mean massive power losses. Then, there is the issue of gas shortages, critical for power generation but often in short supply.
Now, and let's not forget corruption. Mismanagement has turned a difficult situation into a daunting one. But Ademola, what exactly is behind the latest blackout across the north?
That's a big question. And several factors, Victor. First, the national grid itself collapsed, sparking widespread outages. Then we have gas pipeline vandalism, which has choked off supply. Add to that overdue maintenance and a surge in demand as temperatures rise.
And that leaves millions in darkness, especially in key states like Kano, Kaduna, Sokoto, and Bauchi. Hospitals, businesses, security, daily life, everything is impacted. It's a real crisis.
Yeah, it's true. That's a real crisis, but there is hope on the horizon. The Northern Governors Forum is now teaming up with traditional rulers and working directly with the federal government to find a permanent solution.
And in support, President Bola Tinubu has ordered security agencies to protect Transmission Company of Nigeria personnel as they work to restore power.
With 17 northern states affected, this crisis needs urgent attention. So today, we dig deeper into the power challenges haunting the north. From crumbling infrastructure to policy shortfalls, we'll get to the heart of it.
And together, we'll look at innovative solutions, from renewable energy options to community-driven efforts that could change the game.
And we'll hear from experts, policymakers, and the very people affected. Questions we'll explore include: what's causing this power crisis? Could renewable energy be the answer? What can community-led initiatives bring to the table? What policy reforms might finally make a difference?
Well, we'll be your guides as we travel across the region, from Kano to Kaduna, Sokoto to Bauchi, uncovering the human impact of this power struggle and a quest for real sustainable solutions. I am Victor, so I'm glad to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria.
And I'm Ademola Adeoye. I join my colleague Victor in welcoming you to Good Morning Nigeria. We have got the newspaper review with Chukwudi Okoli Ugbaja. But first, let's get today's news highlights from Dennis Adigunloye. Good morning, Dennis.
Good morning, Ademola and Victor. Good morning, Nigeria. Here is the morning news. President Bola Tinubu has commended members of the armed forces for the progressive successes being recorded in the fight against insecurity in parts of the country. This was as he launched the 2025 Armed Forces Remembrance Day celebration emblem appeal at the State House.
Propagate or postulate if we have no security, you cannot promote peace and development.
U.S. President Joe Biden has promised support towards ensuring a permanent seat for Nigeria in the United Nations Security Council. This was during a telephone conversation he had with President Bola Tinubu. In the conversation, witnessed by the Foreign Affairs Minister Yusuf Tuga, the U.S. President commended the Nigerian leader for collaborations between the two countries, particularly in the area of adherence to the rule of law. President Biden also thanked President Tinubu for the release of one of the Binance executives who was facing trial in Nigeria for allegations including tax evasion.
And President Biden equally assured that this is a partnership that will continue, and he stated, as a matter of fact, not just once, but at least twice, that the future of the world resides in Africa, which is why it was important for this partnership to continue.
And President Bola Tinubu has expressed further commitments towards ensuring full implementation of its Naira for crude policy. This was at a meeting to review the policy's implementation at the State House. President Tinubu said the various players in the oil sector, including the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited and the Dangote refinery, should work to improve the economy and the livelihood of Nigerians. After the meeting, Chairman of the Implementation Committee, Minister of Finance, Wale Edun, and Chairman of Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, revealed that the policy is set to ensure stability in the oil and gas sector with its multiple benefits.
The financial advisor and the financial intermediary, a stabilizing factor that will help us to achieve the objective of ramping up stick production of refined products and the sale of those products into the Nigerian economy.
Vice President Kashim Shettima has called for a stronger collaboration between governments and the media in carrying out their shared responsibility for Nigeria's national development. He made the call when the leadership of the Nigerian Guild of Editors paid him a courtesy visit at the presidential villa, pledging government support to ensuring the sustainability of the fourth estate of the realm, making a strong case for a balanced partnership to drive national unity and economic growth. The Vice President noted that the time has come to prioritize governance over political considerations, acknowledging the economic challenges confronting the media and pledging that the government's support will continue to sustain quality journalism.
Tell is that Nigerian media, we are committed to democracy, we are committed to good governance, and that they can take that to.
Member of the House of Representatives, Alex Iwitjig, who is involved in a case of alleged assault on a cab operator, has been referred to the House Committee on Ethics and Privileges for investigation. This followed a point of order raised by Majority Leader Julius Ihonvre, stating that the rules of the House shall be applied for the member to face the House Disciplinary Committee.
And those things I regret. I apologize to all Nigerians.
I've seen a man that is remorseful, but our rules must be complied with. He should go and sit with our Committee on Ethics and Privileges.
Well, the Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, and heads of Transmission Company of Nigeria, the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission, and some distribution companies met the Senate Committee on Power on Tuesday evening and assured of restoration of power to communities affected by the recent power outage. Answering questions from the legislators, the regulators and operators insist that investment and proper coordination in the power sector are key to overcoming present challenges.
Which is the Bauchi route, which was also vandalized anyway, but that one is easier to fix. And we are saying within the next 2 to 3 days, there will be light restored to the north.
I know what we used to get in the budget. So the power system need a lot of money to do so many things. To build more transmission line.
Well, those are the highlights of the news at this time. Good morning. Nigeria continues after the break with Ademola and Victor. Good morning.
Rekindling the faith in the promise of a new Nigeria. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been introducing new measures since he assumed power in May 2023. The president eliminated a $10 billion fuel subsidy, lowering the country's debt service burden from 97% to 68% of government revenue. The president is promoting the resumption of local refining of crude oil after years of inactivity in Nigeria's state-owned refineries. He has ordered the sale of crude oil to local refineries in Naira, a move that would significantly lower the price of fuel. Simultaneously, his government is modifying the engines of 1 million commercial vehicles to run on compressed natural gas free of charge. From the approval of 110 billion naira to support youth startups to the establishment of the Nigerian Youth Academy to train 7 million youth in 4 years. President Tinubu is committed to creating a supportive environment for the youth. His cabinet is increasingly accommodating young ministers with their novel visions for the country's development.
Education is the tool to fight against poverty effectively.
Nigeria's revenue has more than doubled during Tinubu's administration, reaching over 9.1 trillion naira. This led to a significant increase in budget allocations for state governments, setting a new historical record. He has also signed a new national minimum wage into law, increasing it from 30,000 to 70,000 naira. The president has launched major projects, including the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway and Sokoto-Badagry Highway that are slated to connect 16 states, create thousands of jobs and boost economic growth.
Be hopeful, be assured that you have a country that cares about you, and you must care about the country. There's a very good bright light at the end of the tunnel.
This message is from the Office of the Special Advisor to the President on Public Communication and Orientation.
Nivea Dry Deodorant with 72-hour reliable odor protection from Dual Effect Formula for a dry and fresh skin feeling that gives you confidence every day. Nivea Dry is now available in 25 ml for 72-hour odor and sweat protection.
What wakes you up in the morning? Is it the sunrise? Is it the alarm? No. It's your dream that wakes you every day. It's what drives you like a powerful engine. That's why you start strong every day with the rich, creamy taste of Nescafe 3-in-1, carefully crafted from selected coffee beans. On your hustle, and you won't stop until you succeed. Start strong. Finish strong.
The counsel of our fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Hey Nigeria, ready to breathe cleaner air and save money? Let's talk about gas. Drive with CNG, the smart, cost-effective choice. Fill up for less and travel further. Save money, save the planet. Switch to LPG for cooking. It's cleaner, healthier, and better for environment. Say goodbye to smoke and eye problems. Do you know Nigeria is a gas nation ranked 9th globally with over 209 trillion cubic feet of gas reserve? Gas isn't just for cooking and driving. It powers industries too. Cleaner, cheaper, and more efficient. And the best part, conversion centers are popping up everywhere. It's never been easier to switch to gas. Join the cleaner energy revolution. Choose LPG for cooking and CNG for your vehicles. Clean energy for brighter future. This message is brought to you by the Office of the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Gas, supported by the Nigeria Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA.
This Saturday, Borussia Dortmund, RB Leipzig. Watch live Borussia Dortmund versus RB Leipzig on Sporty TV.
SportyBet sponsors coverage of the German Bundesliga.
Thanks for staying with us. You're still on to Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Up next on the program is Newspaper Review.
And Chukwudi Okoliubaja joins us in the studio for Newspaper Review. A pleasure to welcome you. Good morning.
How are you, Victor?
Well, I'm fine.
I am happy I'm not croaking. I am suppressing a cough. I shall conquer.
You will.
Debola,
you have conquered.
You're there sitting like a good man. It's okay.
Just like it's not quiet.
Good morning, Demo. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and you?
You look every inch a great man.
Thank you.
All right, let's begin with the People's Daily, and it leads with the story. Dangote to NNPC, stop petrol importation. We have enough for local consumption, says over 500 million liters waiting for buyers. Interesting. And then just above that story, below the nameplate, UNSC seat, Biden assures support for Nigeria's quest. That's United Nations Security Council seat. And Niger Assembly raises alarm, says bandits have taken over military camp. You can get details of that on page 5. And Defense Minister directs CDS to provide security for electricity tower repairs. Fantastic. And Benue government treats 1,939 tuberculosis patients in 3 months. 1,939 tuberculosis patients in 3 months, page 3. Reps condemn a brutal killing of Plateau indigents in Oka, Anambra State, page 7. Reps query Ministry of Works Permanent Secretary over 1.4 billion naira abandoned road projects, page 3. And finally, Murik tasks presidency, NAS, to acquire new aircraft for VP's office. Interesting. And that takes us to the leadership, which leads with the same story as the People's Daily. Fuel crisis hold marketers responsible for long queues. That's according to Dangote. Says refinery ready for 30 million liters daily supply. Again, NNPC raises pump price. Adjustment due to market dynamics. That's according to marketers. And Ghana eyes fuel imports from Dangote refinery. That story is on page 4. And above the nameplate, we will restore power to the north in 5 days. That's according to TCN. Kano approves 71,000 naira minimum wage, page 16. Below the masthead, Only Lagos rivers can generate substantial IGR. That's according to budget. For details, get page 7. And scores killed in a Edo cult war, page 7. Finally, reps probe member over assault on Bolt driver, page 16. Demola.
All right, thank you, Victor. I have this Nigeria newspaper with me. And just beside the nameplate, we have service disruptions violates customers' right. FCC, PC, carpets, banks. Details on page 132. Then the headlines, just about the same with the other papers. Top fuel importation. Dangote tells NNPCL, says we have over 500 million liters in our tank, as NNPCL officially hikes fuel price to 1,025, 1,060 in Lagos and Abuja respectively. Every FCT area council will benefit from Tinubu's administration, says Wike. Details of that story can be found on page 6. FCTA demands ground rent as stipulated by law to avoid revocation of titles. Then we have Biden supports Nigeria's quest for UN Security Council seat. Expresses gratitude to federal government for release of Biden's executives. Did you notice how bulky this newspaper is this morning?
I came in with a burden. I was almost tempted to put it on my head, Demola. They should take Wike seriously.
This is Wike.
Wike can't.
See Wike.
Wike can't list. I think every Nigerian's name,
including the president.
Wike cannot spend all this money listing the names of those
and
who
he don't get the money. It's not
FCT rent.
Ground rent.
You're going to go ground rent, and you think you're going to go scot-free.
No.
But actually, we should form the habit of paying our taxes, rates, and levies as at when due. That is how the economies abroad, where our brothers and sisters are enjoying life, that is how they operate.
It is not
taxation.
It is also
levies,
a duty to find a way to get it from whatever source. I don't think people happily pay it.
Oh, well, the
so
economic
even in those places that you mentioned, find a way to get it.
No, you see, in those places that you mentioned, they know that if you don't pay, there is sanction. So there will be sanctions. So
and then you know that when you pay it, you get the returns.
You get the return. So here,
this man is always telling us that the Nigerian glass of water is always half empty. We are saying it's half full.
Who is that?
When they pay, they know they will get commensurate attention.
That man.
No.
So, but
don't think what your country can do for you. You think what you can do for your country. That's how to start, really.
Well,
I understand you. My friend in California said, I went into a place, it was like a suburb. They were asking us to pay so many things. We were annoyed initially. But Chukwudi, if you see how the place is now, I'm ready to pay ×2 of whatever they want. You can see the development. That is where Victor is going. And that is where we should head to.
And that's where we're heading.
Yes. Always be optimistic.
Yeah.
Dangote, isn't there the willing buyer, willing seller clause in the act?
Nigerian economics defies.
So why is Dangote taking a megaphone to ask them to stop? Maybe that's where NNPC wants to go and buy. But the point is this. If we had organized all this from when Dangote started setting up, and we were all of the same mind, is it not possible that Dangote wouldn't need to tell us that he has enough fuel we should buy from him? Why is it that we tend to be going our separate ways about a common issue? Let me not call it a problem, because I came here imbued with optimism. There's something there that we do not quite understand yet. Catch me if you can, hide and seek. Do you know that nobody is talking about, since he's pulling crude from Nigeria here and refining here, there is no such thing as landing cost. Nobody's talking about it anymore. And you now hear that it's going up a bit. And the question is this, gentlemen. Has the subsidy been finally removed or not? If they don't come out with a categorical statement on this, all this catch me if you can will continue. Tell us, is the subsidy still there or not? If it is no longer there, leave marketers. Whoever likes can sell 1,500. Whoever likes can sell 1,100. I'll go to the man whose price is cheaper. That is how it should be working now. Who is holding back? What is it they know we do not know? That is the point, gentlemen.
Big questions you have raised this morning.
Yes,
I
please.
think,
Sounds like a lot that we don't know. Only yesterday here, we read a story talking about filling stations, that the number of filling stations that are at risk of closing shop just because the people are not buying
They're not patronizing them.
And now you're talking about a hike. Dangote is saying we have so much. So I don't know how you're going to piece all of this together.
It now. Something is wrong somewhere. And I'm saying you owe the people transparency of your processes. It's not, you don't have another option. Come out with it. And again, I go to my brothers in the newsroom. We are not actively there anymore. Hold them responsible to their last statement all the time. Don't keep chasing the new news items they throw on the turf for you. Because when that happens, you forget what they said yesterday.
That's for destruction.
Yeah, thank you. It's catch me if you can. Why are we falling for it? But please, let's quickly say thank you to the state governments that are even adding a few naira notes to the minimum wage. We should not come here castigating and criticizing all the time. I know that journalists can never be pleased.
That's good.
We should say, well done to them.
Kudos to Lagos, Rivers, those that have gone
exactly
a bit up.
Yeah.
So, some deployed their Wenger tactics when they wanted to buy Luis Suarez from Liverpool.
Yes.
They said Luis Suarez's cost, his buyout clause indicated £40 million. Anything after 40 million, but beyond 40 million pounds, and Arsene Wenger urged Arsenal to bid 40 million plus £1.
Just leave Arsenal out of it, okay? Arsene Wenger gave us a wonderful stadium. He did well, okay? Quickly, we will restore power to the north in 5 days. Action speaks louder than words. Does TCN, the Transmission Company of Nigeria, know how many times we've been told that Port Harcourt Refinery would soon start operations? Let them learn from NNPCL and do it quietly. Let's see power. We'll believe it when we see the power. But our brothers and sisters in the north need that vital utility to be restored.
Indeed.
That's very important. Let's not gloss over that fact. So let them work, please. It's very important.
I believe they're working on it.
Yeah.
Because even the minister stated it yesterday, and he has given assurances. So
I think they will do it. We're just nudging them to effectiveness.
Well, that's our discussion for today.
Yeah.
So we'll have time to
we have
do an elaborate conversation.
Yes. So, well, thank you, Chooks. I think it's time that
so
we
much,
wind up this
gentlemen.
segment.
Thanks a lot.
We'll hope to see you tomorrow.
I will be here by His grace.
Grab a cup of coffee on your way out.
So we take a break now. Good Morning Nigeria continues. Stay with us.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, we rise, a land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree, we swear in color, we stand down in deeper, we make solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Diversity is unique, we have more than this solution.
We are Nigeria, strengthened in unity, we know they carry love. We are Nigeria, together live the dream of a land with great destiny. We are Nigeria.
I am the real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
If tomorrow is judgment day,
Recently, I discovered that this very popular music, Sweet Mother,
yes,
by Nico Mbaga, is the 13th highest selling record ever in the history of music.
Mention something that might go wrong on a date.
The lady paying the bill?
The lady paying the bill! Aside the toilet, mention a place most Nigerian men willingly pee.
On the wall.
In the bush.
On car tires?
On Good answer.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
The federal government of Nigeria warns vandals of national assets, electricity transmission towers, cables and other facilities to desist from this act of sabotage. Vandalism is a serious crime punishable under the law. Vandalizing electrical equipments will affect millions of Nigerians, including your loved ones. Remember that national assets belong to all of us, hence the need to protect them. Report all cases of suspicious movement around electrical facilities to security agencies. When you see something, say something. This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation in collaboration with the National Counter-Terrorism Center, NCTC, Office of the National Security Advisor.
Nigeria means a lot to me.
And Nigeria means peaceful cohesion.
My country.
We continue to pray, and then hopefully we will come to understand that unity of purpose, unity of living together.
Our ethnic beliefs and background and culture is our strength.
Ever since the amalgamation period of 1914 to date, about 109 years ago, the people of Nigeria live very peacefully with one another.
I think diversity helps a lot to enhance robust development in Nigeria.
All over the country, you have so many ethnic groups, over 250. That is enough to tell you that this is a blessed country, and God has kept together as one indivisible entity.
We are Liverpool.
This Saturday, Liverpool.
Clipped in by Salah. Sanchez not there in time. Almost already made for them.
Brighton.
The time of getting it forward here. It's Ruta. And it's an equaliser.
Liverpool versus Brighton. Live on Sporty TV.
40Bet sponsors coverage of the English Premier League.
Okay, this is Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. We thank you for staying tuned. Our conversation borders on power outage in the north. And to get this conversation going, let's take this background report by correspondent Oyeyemi Ajayi.
The vandalism of the transmission line in the northern part of the country has thrown the region into blackout for days. Business owners in several parts of the region are counting their losses, and owing to the outage, economic activities have been paralyzed in some places. Disturbed by the development, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had mandated the Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, and other concerned parties to speed up restoration process. Apart from Niger and Kwara, 17 states in the north are now without the electricity supply in the last 2 weeks, despite the governors and monarchs' call on the federal government to address the current electricity blackout in the northern states, as well as invest in additional transmission lines and diversified energy supply to ensure improved electricity supply, aside calling on related authorities to speed up the restoration of the power. The forum said the development underscores the vulnerability of critical infrastructure while emphasizing the need to build additional transmission lines and diversify the energy supply to better connect the region and improve the energy resilience. Though the Transmission Company of Nigeria (TCN) said it was working to restore power to the affected region, the president had warned that government would no longer condone deliberate sabotage and destruction of public facilities. The president also directed the National Security Advisor to work with the Army and the Armed Forces to deploy adequate security personnel, including aerial cover, to protect the engineers who are fixing the damaged transmission line. The federal government also said it has secured the commitment of contractors and financiers to invest between $1 billion and $2 billion to install 50 megawatts in each of the 19 northern states, and when operational, the solar plants would use the region's long daily hours of sunlight and reduce the load on the struggling national grid. How much days are left for the restoration of power in these states? When will the restoration be completed? Questions our guests will be answering shortly.
Thank you very much, Oyemi Ajayi, for that background there. Now we have in the studio joining us to discuss power outage in the north. Way forward. Let me introduce the first engineer, Mustafa Mehaja, a former Director General, National Emergency Management Agency (NEMA), and expert in power system planning and development. Engineer Mehaja, you are welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Also joining us in the studio, we have Idris Mohammed, former CEO, Kaduna Electricity Distribution Company, Power Infrastructure Consultant, and lead consultant to Nigeria Embassy in Washington, D.C., that organized first U.S.-Nigeria Investment Summit in Washington. Idris Mohammed, you're welcome.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigeria.
All right. We'll have a couple of guests joining us as we get on with the program. But to begin this conversation, perhaps we just start with Engineer Mehaja. Give us a sense. We're in the north, but maybe not in the north as we know it in this case. What's the situation exactly in the northern part of Nigeria regarding power supply, public power supply, that is?
Well, I thank you so much for having me this morning. We must understand the issue of power sector today is a complex one. We have this problem today because of cumulative issues before now. I could recall when I was a staff of National Electric Power Authority, we operate during the former managing director, executive engineer Hamza Ibrahim, we operated a ring system of the grid. The ring system is more flexible, provides stability, and outages are usually minimal, because when a problem happens at one point, you can inject power through the other. He was forced to dismantle that because, as at that time, funding in the sector was not there. Operationally, he could not continue with the ring system. It's a little costlier, but when you are talking of power stability, you need a ring system in the grid. So it was now stepped down to what we call radial system. Believe me, I was very closely working with the system planning when I was working with the national rural education programs. I was scared. I said, should there be a problem today, managing it could be a very difficult task. What happened now that the north is out of supply can happen to any part of the country. Once you have this kind of problem, believe me, it can affect the west, it can affect the east, it can affect the south, everywhere, because we are operating a radial system. An effort was made quite all right to ring it, but operationally the ring system is not yet in place. That is one. Secondly, there is social and political influences. political exigencies today is giving much more consideration to the citing of projects. If you don't do it, you face the wrath of the politicians if you are a technical people. I knew previous chief executive of TCENT last 2 years, 3 years, simply because I know the TCENT engineers were very stubborn then to the muzzling of the politicians. Most of them were kicked out before their time because they refused to be muzzled in that regard. This is a fact. I can tell you this. Let me maybe declassify the information. The TCN engineers since then, since the time of Hamza Ibrahim, they were so stubborn. I will recall one of the chief executive in one of the sectors Hamza Ibrahim complained to him that, why are you getting money to fund your project? He said, don't ask me that. What it means, Hamza Ibrahim couldn't understand what to do to supply the needs of the politicians or the top cadre, and there was no funding. For example, I can recall I worked closely with, not informally, was like Liel Imoke when he was the chairman of the power holders. The problem actually was 37, as at that time, 37 years, there was only 132 kV added into the system. So power expansion was infrastructural deficit was a key problem. And I was asked during his time, he asked me personally, in fact, the government was involved. When do you think we can solve this problem? I told him that you need nothing less than 25 years to fix this problem. Where you have stagnation in the expansion of the infrastructure for 37 years. At 150 MVA, 330, 132 kV transformer takes minimum of 7 months to be manufactured in China. But when you go to Europe, they will give you 18 months. And there are few industries, even not as at that time, who can manufacture a good 150, because it's a very complex engineering to manufacture 150 MVA 330 stroke 132 kV transformer. We call it auto transformers. So that is one. Secondly, there is issue of constraints of the law. In the Procurement Act, you must give to the lowest bidder, for example. And then, like the transformer I was talking about, 150 MVA, the best tap, one of the major equipment that comes with it, tap changer. The best tap changer in the world today is MR. MR tap changer is a German made. If TCN should say, go for MR tap changer, they are violating the law. And I assure you, any tap changer you use, you run into problem. I could recall also when, what do you call it, the Katampe substation, I was fully involved in redesigning it, the Katampe substation, as a consultant, where TransEnergy struck Colenco. Colenco is a Swiss company. I was fully involved. That compromise came into play whereby the isolators, we call it disconnector switch, we bought all of them from China. They didn't last 1 year, 6 months. 6 months. So you have to improvise to do this. That compromised the stability of the power.
So apart from infrastructure deficit, what else? What of maintenance of existing infrastructure?
The DEN, NEPA training in the DEN power houses was something that is very, very powerful. But now, training in all the government companies is a problem. It's seen as, what do you call it, when you want to, welfare. So I was involved. When training program is put in the budget, you only give the staff, they go and they spend it, they don't even go for the training. Believe me, this is rampant in the government system. So the staffs, they are not properly trained. Okay. Yes, the staffs are not properly trained. Secondly, social issue. They need or economic issue. They need more money. The salary is too meager, and they have to find a way to support themselves.
Makes them vulnerable.
Precisely. So it's a complex issue. So the staffs are not properly trained, not because we don't see the importance of training, but for the reasons I've just mentioned, they are not properly trained. Handling of this thing. I could recall in 1994, the first installation of 30-40 MVA transformer was done by us under supervision of Engineer Ua, who was a very good, we call it PCNM engineer. He retired as an ED in the PCNM. So we nearly fought with the management then, because usually they invite Siemens, this to do it. We were fully trained. We had very strong training structure within the system. You first do it in Ajora, you go to Kainji, you go to, so training, 2 years full-fledged training. You have to undergo through that, but it's not there. Everything has been changed, and not to good, but to worse. Okay. So that is one of the actually problem. Inadequate training is an issue. Lastly, the demons. The demon, corruption.
Okay.
Corruption is, in fact, superb all these issues I have just mentioned. It's terrible issue today. Whether we like it or each and every Nigerian, with the exception of few, everybody is involved in it. I pity the young ones. I don't know what this country will turn out to be in the few years to come. I saw that during this strike. It was politically motivated, but what I saw in my village, Nguru, I'm from Yobe State, Nguru, 10,000 small children, 10, 11, 12, 14, coming out, wanted to loot the police. I said no. In fact, not only the police, the military were there, the police were there, road safety were involved, NDLA was to barricade the market. What we call, like one play in Hausa land, Nikura, they want to grab what they can. The police say no, and they cannot shoot. Yeah. They are small children. So I became scared. I say, is it what is happening in this town? It has never been like this. I don't know. So I'm in a state of fear as I'm talking to you now. I don't know what will happen.
What of maintenance of existing?
Thank you so much for your opening thoughts there. You have spoken so much about corruption. You talked about corruption, ring systems, social and political exigencies that has affected then the stagnation for over 30 years and the issue of training and social economic challenges. Let's bring in Mr. Idris Mohammed, who also, you're the former CEO of Kaduna Electricity Distribution Company and Power Infrastructure. Let's have your experience. Tell us about your experience being the CEO of Kaduna Electricity Distribution. What do you think, are the challenges that we are facing in the North in particular?
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigeria. My contribution would be a continuation of the last discussion we had here in Good Morning Nigeria with the TCN team discussing the issue of system collapse. And what my Haja said is actually true. It is true in the sense that a lot has happened that eroded the efficiency of NEPA, as we would say. Traditionally, when NEPA was in existence, when you are employed, you are given a rigorous training, like he said, and that lasts for like about a year and a half or 2 years. And then that intensive training, whoever you are, you must undergo that training. On the depth of your performance, your appointment is confirmed, and you are also given the final responsibility and posting as a staff of NEPA. So that inability to continue that legacy really is a major negative consequence of inefficiency in the system. And to continue from where he said, the demon. The demon is actually a major factor. And then you would actually know that in the old dispensation, that is NEPA stroke PHCN days, everything regarding the operations of the company in order to achieve efficiency is there. For instance, in the transmission company. In the transmission company, you are expected to embark on annual vegetation control. That annual vegetation control means that all vegetations under the 330 kV lines, 132 kV lines are removed completely. And then it is a very, very important aspect of maintaining or reducing the effect of system collapse. I begin to wonder if we have a provision for clearing the vegetation under the high tension line, clearing all structures that fall under the high tension line. Why is it that from the picture that happened in Shiroro, that is happening in the coastal areas where the vegetation has been allowed to overgrow, and therefore movement within those areas is becoming impossible and difficult to attain, I begin to wonder, is there no budgetary provision? Are there no funding that is provided for carrying out that essential duty? If it is provided, then what is happening? From the aerial pictures that we have seen, it is so disturbing, it is so disheartening that in order to effectively carry out routine services, transmission services, online patrol, you are not able to do it. I think that has to be checked. And if that is not checked, system collapse will continue. Let me also add that before we have, in transmission, we have an aviation department. That aviation department has helicopters. Those helicopters are traditionally used for routine line patrol. Every day it is their responsibility to make sure that they go on aerial patrol of those lines, and then once there is anything alarming, as a result of those aerial patrols, they will detect. What is happening to that aviation department? I am sure that aviation department is now history. Now, how can you now check from transmission? If you are not embarking on aerial patrol, how would a normal patrol a vegetation that is thick, that is impossible to walk through? And it's a major issue. That transmission area, that vegetation area is the hideout for bandits. So if the government is really serious, the first thing is to embark on, vegetation control, which has been provided for. And if that vegetation control is not being implemented or is being diverted for some other reasons, I think it needs to be checked. A lot of reasons that we find ourselves in today is as a result of incompetence, management lackadaisical attitude to carrying out their daily responsibilities because nobody cares. I expect that if you are appointing a managing director of a company such as transmission company, you should give him that You will be appointed Managing Director of Transmission Company of Nigeria with a provision, with a condition that you will minimize system collapse. You can categorically say that if you allow system collapse to happen 3 times in your tenure, you're going. There's no two way about it. Therefore, and before, the reason why I'm saying so before, whenever we have serious issues of system collapse, managements are completely changed. It doesn't matter who you are. The fact is that system collapse is a serious disaster for the economy of the country. It has social implication, it has political implication, it has financial implication, it has economic implication. The effect is phenomenal. And unless the government is willing to stand firm and then eliminate completely this issue of system collapse that is creating a serious disaster for the economy, a serious crime for the, for the country, this trend will continue. And I think I advise that the government should be firm. It doesn't matter who you are. If you allow system collapse to happen during your time because of inefficiency, because system collapse is avoidable.
But what's the
avoidable.
What's the difference when you say system collapse due to inefficiency? How much of a challenge is vandalism in all of this?
The challenge that you have in vandalism is because, number one, like I said earlier, that you are supposed to embark on vegetation control. Vegetation control is critical because it makes the area accessible. If that area is not accessible, it becomes a criminal area. And then I want you to understand that whenever system collapse takes place, it means the towers are available. And the criminals, the vendors, they know that whenever there is no supply, they can do whatever they want to do under the tower. They know that if there is supply, they dare not do it. And each time, if you notice, each time there is system collapse, vandalism of the tower becomes the order of the day. Difficulty in accessing becomes the order of the day. And at this particular time, I weep for Nigeria. I weep for Nigeria because something that needs to be done is not being done. And it is costing this country, huge negative consequences.
What is the thing that needs to be done?
What needs to be done is that completely the management of the company, all right, needs to be reviewed. If appointment is on the basis of performance, appointment should be on the basis of performance. If you are asked and given responsibility to perform, you will perform. I was having a discussion with my Haja before he came in. I said, we have not met. I've only been seeing you in NTA and the electronic media, but you did so well when you were in power. He has a better reason to give regarding that. There is no, if you want to achieve results, you must lay out the template for whoever is being a management staff. Like I said before, if system collapse persists, management is changed. Why can't it happen? Why can't that happen now? Politics, like he said, is a major issue. Politics, the choice is yours. If you are a managing director and politician comes to say, please, I need a contract for vegetation control, and then you give him contract for vegetation control and he doesn't do it. I'm not saying that that is what is happening. If he doesn't carry out vegetation control and then you go and pay him, for goodness sake, is that not a disservice to Nigeria? Is that not economic sabotage? I think what needs to be done is clear. People that need to be appointed should be given the responsibility, should be given a timeline. Just the way ministers are appointed, you sign, from the time you are appointed as a minister, you sign your exit. So that it's at the discretion of the president to say, okay, you are fired. The same thing should apply to sensitive places like transmission company. Transmission company is the backbone of the economy.
Okay, thank you.
It's the backbone of the economy.
Thank you. Okay, Victor, you have the guest on Zoom.
Okay,
so
he's
you
ready.
Can just introduce the
yeah,
guest.
we did say that we'll be joined by perhaps a couple more guests. Now we have joining us via Zoom, of course, from Kuru, Jos in Plateau State, Engineer Tasiu Saad Gidari Udil, who is the immediate past president of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, NSC. A pleasure to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning, Nigeria.
Now that we can hear you clearly, perhaps you just have your say, give us your take on the power crisis, particularly in the north, what you can attribute it to, and how do we proceed from here?
Well, I'm happy you have Engineer Mehaja and Alhaji Idris there with you. And they have discussed extensively of the causes and the old good days of NEPA. I'm happy to say that I was together with them in NEPA. Fortunately for me, I served with the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. And for 13 years, I've been in charge of transmission and distribution standards and monitoring. And the issue of system collapse is never taken serious in Nigeria. I could remember most of the system collapses. I keep advising my employers to do thorough investigation. The reason is that you cannot pinpoint the cause of a system collapse without proper technical investigation. And once you do that, you'll be able to pinpoint the root cause and find solution to it. When we had NEPA, it was self-regulating. But after the reform and the Electricity Power Sector Reform Act was signed into law, the establishment of the regulator and the creation of different companies, transmission companies, generation companies, and distribution companies, made it like a loose system, where if the regulator is sleeping, then everybody goes to sleep. If the regulator is leading, then people follow. But it is not the same case with us. We tried to look at things the Nigerian way. So what happened this time was a genuine accident on Igwaji 230 transmission line. That line links the north through Makodi to Jos, making the power supply to the north a ring, because Jos is linked to Kaduna, Kaduna is linked to Shiroro, Shiroro is linked to the rest of the grid. So you can see if you lose one line, the other line gives you supply. So that failure made the supply little bit important. And of course, when the whole system collapses, you have to restore. Before restoration, the vandals attacked Shiroro Kaduna Line 1. And while the TCN engineers were trying to gain access to those places, mind you, that is a den of bandits. So nobody dares to go there without security cover. So while they were trying to get security cover, the second line was attacked. Meanwhile, the Ugaji line is being patrolled. Then they discovered a failed line, and to get to that place was not easy. Now, the issue here is, as Malam Idris said, there should be an access road throughout the transmission line for maintenance. But is it there? If TCN is not able to do that, is the regulator looking at it? The regulator, is he sleeping? Has he looked at it? That, okay, you are supposed to have this. And you put it in their revenue requirements. It's an economic thing. You put it in their revenue requirement. They are going to do line tracing. They are going to do vegetation control. Are they doing it? Is the customer getting value? Then, if they are not doing it, who is sanctioning who? So it's the whole system that we're in trouble. Then at the same time, on security, we feel that nobody doesn't like us. Everybody likes us. But in a well-developed climate, everybody is a suspect. So your infrastructure must be protected. The National Security Advisor's Office, the armed forces, what are they doing? The transmission company of Nigeria, are they employing technology to monitor their line? Yes, we used to have helicopters to go on patrol. Now you don't need a helicopter. You need drones. You need aerial surveillance to be able to do that. So that immediately you have a fault, you can easily locate. Our fault locators, are they working? For you to once that's a tripping, you'll be able to say, oh, it is in so zone. So zone is between this tower and this tower. You go straight to that place. Are they working? So as my colleagues have mentioned, there is a failure in training and retraining staff, both in transmission, distribution, and even generation. So we need to wake up, and I hope very soon they will repair the Ugaji line and supply will be coming through Makodi back to this country, to northern Nigeria. But security is needed to secure those lines, especially Kaduna Shiroro line. There is so much vegetation, there is so much insecurity on that line. No engineer will risk his life to go to that place without security cover. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Engineer Tasiu, there for your opening remarks. You have said a lot, and you even mentioned that the days of the old NEPA is better than what we have right now. I remember in those days, NEPA, we used to tag them as never expect power all the time. I don't know why. Anyway, it's debatable. Unfortunately, unfortunately, we don't have the TCN officials here to defend some of these issues that you have raised today. Although we made efforts to get them to come for this discussion, but they couldn't make it. So, but let's keep on with our discussion. Maybe they will come.
Adebola, I was going to say that if the two engineers are missing, in fact, all of them are missing the good old days, they put it, of NEPA,
yes,
then it tells the story of where we are, because it means that, it hasn't been better since NEPA. But NEPA was discarded because it wasn't efficient. And then we moved to power holding. They said, oh, they were holding the power and not giving to Nigerians. And then we found ourselves in this unbundling. So,
well, unfortunately, but let's move on. We're trying to find solution to the challenges that we have. Engineer Mehaja, I know you want to say, you want to add to it, but then let me just ask, besides what the issues that you want to add to, how much of the current generation capacity is lost? Do you think is lost due to inefficiency in the system? We have mentioned several reasons for the inefficiencies in the system. How much do you think we are losing?
We could not get how to improve or address, excuse me, the infrastructure deficit. We failed to do it for so many reasons. One of the major one was the corruption. But I want to first address the issue of change of management. Believe me, it's not only TCN. Any major class, special class parastatal in Nigeria, anybody you put, so long as this issue of corruption, this issue of staff training, this issue of managerial are not addressed, he cannot do anything. So I don't support the idea is the issue of management. Like I said, he inherited a liability. He cannot perform magic. Number two, the problem I faced in NEMA, particularly when it's as regard to the issue of welfare. I told you that training is seen today across public service.
As a gift.
It's a welfare. And when I said, I now made it that we pay the training fees to the institute, and I choose only the government institutions, CMD, Badagry, you know, ASCON in Badagry. I said, no, any consultant. That is where the fight began with the union. I pay directly to those institutions. And if you don't go, they will not sign up and you cannot get. That is the beginning of the fight with the union. So if, for example, the current MD, Abdulaziz, said he would implement such kind of thing, he will have serious trouble, number one. Number two, on the issue of vegetation, I don't even sure, but one thing I can vouch is provided in the budget, the issue of vegetation. But you discover that political exercises are given consideration on doing this job, and it may not be done. And there is nothing, if you don't fight the politician. I am a politician, but a professional. I give more preference to my professional inclination than any political issue. When I was the administrator, I refused, and everybody could testify to the problem I had. Because when you are talking of emergencies, for example, as important as issue of electricity is, I said, I don't care where you are, I don't care whether it's north, I don't care whether it's this or it's south. I give preference to who needs emergency support. We had helicopters in Nema. I said, look, this politician use it. I said no to it. I first met the president. I said, sir, this is what he said. This helicopter is made for medical response, and I will stop this and that. He said, go ahead. So you need that political cover to fight the system. So in fact, it's only the president that can give you that. Nobody else. All the very serious minister, or you lose the job. So the issue of saying the management, any manager you make today, believe me, once he's not given the support and cover from all angles, security, administrative, managerial, governmental, from the highest level, he cannot perform. If he said he wants to fail. And the situation in electricity today requires that clause, emergency, declaration of emergency, because it's so serious, it's so terrible that normal process will not get electricity today. I was privileged to see a clip, a publication of 1963 that electricity must be provided before the end of the year. We are still in it. From 63 to date, we are still in it. We could not get it. Don't tell me all this we are talking about. We must a serious approach to it, truthful approach, sincerity of purpose. All these gimmicks, go to TV, you call pressmen, you tell them what they want to hear, you tell Nigerians, we must face the reality and face this. So lastly, bureaucracy is a major issue when you want to declare emergency. That's the need. That's why we need to declare emergency. Regulators. Now, TCN regulator decide what TCN gets in terms of share, and then what TCN needs maybe is 100 billion. The regulator will say, "No, I will give you 50." He doesn't mind. You understand this issue of regulation, as good as it is being misused, and then nobody recognizes what TCN needs because of what the company really needs. Because if you don't, I cannot say much about it. If you don't move, you don't get. That is the concept of corruption that affects. So it's a complex issue. Then we have what we call lies men, because we took that time the company took outage as a very, very serious offense. So you then talk of 330 kV line at all. So if people are trained, they call it live, they climb the live wire with all the necessary equipment to do the necessary maintenance without cutting off the supply. That is to tell you the importance we attribute to maintaining the supply. I could recall one of the ED, I may not have to mention it, was fired because there was fire outbreak at Aja then in the 90s, late 90s. He was fired. 3 days into interrogation, he couldn't defend it. He was fired because there was we call the whole system that protection aspect, we call it PCNM, protection, control, and metering. It's a full-fledged department, very powerful, who ensure that the system efficiency is optimum. So when it happened, Aja lost transformers over 400 million that time. He was fired.
That's exactly what Mr. Idris said.
But what I am saying, but the present,
the people are not being held to account.
Responsible for all these collapses. When you have a grid collapse like 3 times in a month, I mean,
you work harder to ensure it doesn't happen.
Let's assume you make him the MD.
Yeah.
Just hypothetically, you make him an MD. You cannot stop that in the next 6 months or 1 year. You can't stop it because things need to be done. Will take a longer time to stop it. Do you understand what I mean? You see, the case of, for example,
it means that a time frame must be given.
A time frame must be given.
And then, if the time frame is given, and after the time frame, we still have the repetition of what is happening. What happens? What should be done? That's exactly what he said.
He didn't put a time frame. This idea I brought. Why we need a time frame. You see, we should first look at how the deterioration level of the system. How can you achieve that within that time? A round table of experts within the system and outside the system must be put in place. See Siemens with their concept of the former government brought Siemens. Siemens could not start after now because of bottlenecks, political, administrative. Siemens, as serious as they will not agree to walk into where they know they will fail, and then there is always struggle. After now, Siemens have not started. How many years now?
That's true.
So if with Siemens, this thing, so if it's not fair to say something you can only correct it in 3 years. Somebody said 6 months you must do it. It's not fair, gentlemen.
All right, I get that.
So honestly,
so there are other issues needed beyond the person who is in charge.
They restored the line. It is Inugu Makodi, but immediately they made the first attempt to restore. They discovered it didn't go because that line surveillance was not. They don't have even the facility. They don't have the money to do the proper surveillance. They just decided to try, and it tripped. They have to start tracing again. I mean, like. In the olden days that we don't have facility, we don't have. Today, we have the facilities. The drones are there. They should be able to have the drones. They should be able to have, even if you have the drones today, believe me, to to train the staff is an issue. They are not interested in training. What they are interested is their
money.
welfare. Yes, it's their welfare. So it's a very complex issue, gentlemen.
All right, Engineer Mehaja, thank you very much. We've got to introduce our last guest, who I understand has also joined us via Zoom from Kaduna. And I'm introducing Dr. Abdul Karim Lawal Maire, who is a renewable energy and power expert. He was a director at the Center for Energy and Environmental Strategic Research and an associate professor at Kaduna State University. He is also former managing director of Kaduna Power Supply Company. It's a pleasure to welcome you, Dr. Abdul Karim, to Good Morning Nigeria.
It's a pleasure. Good morning.
Seize the moment, since your connection is, at least we could hear you. So you've had the benefit, I believe, of listening to the other guests in the studio and out of it. What's your take on the power outage in the north? With the other guests, we've established quite a number of issues, infrastructure deficit to inadequacy of capacity building, poor remuneration, corruption, the politics of it. Are these all, there is to the power outage in the north? What else are the issues, and what needs to be done to get going and get it corrected henceforth?
Sure. All that have been said, that has been the challenge. It cuts across managerial issues, it cuts across capacity, and as well, perhaps, as you said, it cut across the politics of it. And I would touch a bit about the
well, I think we have lost him. So let's come back to the studio now. Let's bring in Mr. Idris Mohammed back into the conversation. So let's try and look at the issue of power distribution and how do transmission losses due to weak lines and dilapidated networks impact power delivery to northern states?
The issue of distribution companies.
Yes.
To a large extent. Distribution companies can only distribute power that is evacuated to them by transmission companies.
Okay.
When the power is generated from the generation companies, the transmission companies will evacuate the power to the distribution companies. So they are the last in the line of the value chain, and then they are performing the most critical function because they supply customers electricity. They can only distribute what was transmitted to them by a transmission company.
Okay.
So if at any point in time there is no power, the distribution companies will be incapacitated to perform their routine responsibility to the customers. So to a large extent, the evacuation of the power by transmission company is so critical to the operations of the distribution companies. And then you have talked about losses that comes as a result of evacuating the power due to weak lines. It's still the same thing. It still boils down to the same issue. Are those weaknesses identified by the distribution company or the transmission company? There is an annual budgeting process. In the annual budgeting process, each sector, if it is transmission will identify areas of weaknesses and then they make proposals to the government for funding. Is that being done? If in the budgetary process lapses or weaknesses are not identified and presented for financial intervention, whose responsibility will that be? If financial funding is made to the distribution companies, for instance, or the transmission company by the federal government, are those weaknesses that have been identified and presented, have they been carried out? You see, I think what is really happening is unfortunate, like my Haja has said. It's now time for serious business. Business has not been taking place. It's now time for serious business, especially at this critical time.
Go ahead.
When we had the system collapse that is affecting the entire region, northern Nigeria, for the first 3 to 4 days, nothing, absolutely nothing to show that the issues are being addressed. But like Mahaja said, when the president now took control of the entire situation and summoned the Minister of Power and gave him a directive that the Honorable Minister should give him a template of when power will be restored to northern region. Has that not been done? Has the Honorable Minister of Power not provided the president a template of when power will be restored to northern part of Nigeria? So it's important that the government is fully in charge. And then for an issue that is as serious as this, the president must be in charge. And the president will call the shots from his office. Just like he is in charge right now. National Security Advisor has been advised. The armed forces, both the security agencies, they are all involved. Who will now say that patrolling the line from air to ground will not be carried out? Who said that? The Chief of Defense Staff has already also made a statement that yes, the vegetation control is a big issue because it has become a hideout for bandits. Why did whoever is responsible for vegetation control, why did you allow vegetation to overgrow? Why is it now impossible? If you create that environment, it means that criminals will take advantage of the situation, and that is exactly what the criminals have done.
All right, let's put you on hold here just so that we can take this break, and when we return, we'll have to head back to Kaduna, where I understand that Dr. Maire is ready to contribute. Please stay with us.
Hey, Hamed, did you hear that a meteorite will be landing near our school tomorrow?
Really? That sounds exciting. But Nkechi, where did you hear that?
Well, Mr. Frumpet told me, and he said it's true.
I just checked on the internet now, and it's not true. There is no report of a meteorite coming this way.
Huh? Are you sure?
Yes, Nkechi. And really, you shouldn't believe everything that you hear without checking the facts first.
Hello, friends. You know it's important to verify all information before spreading it, right?
But how do we do that?
Well, Nkechi, we can start by checking reliable sources like books, newspapers, or asking adults who have knowledge and expertise on the subject.
Or go online like I just did. It's quite easy actually.
Yes, Ahmed. We should be like the truth seekers, finding evidence before sharing anything.
Thanks, Captain Excellence. From now on, I will always double check before spreading any information.
Good job. Remember, knowledge is power. And spreading the truth is always the best choice. By fact-checking information before spreading it, you can make a big difference.
I think Amaka should just move out of the house. Yes.
No. Standing out of the house is not the right thing to do.
Oh, there you go again with your sentimental family stuff.
Baby, if our aim is to stop this affair, it is best achieved under our roof.
You do something terrible and you'll be acting innocent.
What are you going on about?
Don't ask me that question again. You couldn't even control yourself in the presence of our visitors.
What are you accusing me of, man?
My son, I don't know how serious you are with my daughter, but there's something that needs to be done urgently before you move any further.
Anything, just anything, just say it. I'm ready to do anything.
There is a spell that needs to be removed.
A spell?
Family forever. The story of our lives. This Sunday, Napoli. Atalanta. Napoli versus Atalanta. Live on Sporty TV.
SportyBet sponsors coverage of the Italian Serie A.
You have to move from the point where you protect and defend your religion to a point where you also recognize the rights of the other person, of the other religion, and protect it. So if I am protecting my own territory and my own people and trying to emphasize their rights and protect their rights, I should also be thinking about how to protect the rights of the others.
Both Islam and Christianity recognize and defer to God, and both recognize the temporariness of the life of this world, and that ultimately we all go back to God for the day of reckoning, when everybody will render an account of his life on this temporary abode.
This Sunday, live on Sporty TV. Sevilla versus Real Sociedad. Watch live on Sporty TV.
Brought to you by SportyBet. Play with champions.
All right, you're welcome back. This is still Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA, where we have been discussing power outage in the north. Now, let's get back to Kuru Jos, where we have been joined via Zoom by Engineer Tasiu Gidariwu-Deal. Now, I had asked Dr. Maire earlier what his take was on the issues that have been tabled so far and the way forward. But with you, I just want to find out first, which will lead to other contributions that you are going to make, why of the 13,000 megawatts being generated, only about 3,000 goes to the north, for starters?
Well, let me say this technical term. You see, electricity is not like water. It's what you draw is what you get. That's why you see when you have a generating station in your house, a generating set in your house, when you want to put too much of load on it, it tells you, I don't have that amount of energy that you are taking, I cannot. Then you try to shut down yourself. So the more you take is what you get, and you are controlled. If it is not enough, you'll be told you can't take what you want to take. So if the distribution networks in the north do not have the capacity to take the more than 3,000 megawatts, definitely they will not get, nobody gets it. The design is such that the capacity or total capacity of distribution is higher than the total capacity of transmission. And the total capacity of transmission is higher than the total capacity of generation, so that there will be smooth movement of electricity to the distribution units. However, because we have been privatized, no much investment in distribution infrastructure, no much investment in transmission, it's not going with expansion. The planning that is supposed to be done, the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission came up with what is called grid code. And in that grid code, there is another code called planning code. The planning code put it on the shoulder of transmission company of Nigeria to plan the transmission and run it over time. And it's supervised by the regulator. It comes down to the issue of governance again. Is the regulator making sure that those plans are done? Let me go back to my colleague, Engineer Mustafa. You see, what we used to run NEPA, know what is happening now. Before a budget is approved for a utility, transmission, distribution, they must account for the revenue requirement. What do they need? What are they going to do? I remember some of the distribution companies were coming to NEC to ask to purchase vehicles for the CEOs, for the chairman, and for the rate making. We ask the question, what value is it going to add to the consumer? If you buy a Jeep for the CEO of 250 million, what of the vehicle that is going to clear fault for the consumer to enjoy electricity? You find out that the request for that is just one set of tire in a year for a vehicle that is 24 hours on the road. So all those ones, when Transmission Company of Nigeria comes to NEC and ask for a revenue that, look, I need to make 500 billion. Okay, 500 billion you are going to make. How are you going to invest? And how is it going to affect the delivery of energy to consumers? You have to account for that. Otherwise, the regulator will not give you that amount, will not allow you to recover that amount in the tariff. That is the situation. So if they cannot defend their request, then definitely the regulator, if the regulator allows it, is not doing his job. On this one, I must tell you, NAC has been doing that. And one more thing is, I have noticed up to 2021 that most of the requests by TCN are approved without change. Maybe they are not even aware of what they are supposed to request from the regulator to be put in the tariff. And they need to do that. Secondly, as we said, we just have to stop lamenting. We have to provide solutions. The solution is, one, strengthen the governance in the sector. There is corporate failure in all the sections. Corporate failure. We have had situations whereby some discos, the distribution companies, the way they run the distribution companies, they are run like local government. We have had, Mehaja said it, politicians interfere. It is not possible to say TCN will have to do procurement like under the public procurement. It is a company, for goodness sake. So it should be run corporately. So by the time the company comes and says, okay, I need tap changer, MR, there shouldn't be any law that will say no, you cannot say MR. Because we all know from our experience that MR has the best tap changer. So for us to get value for our customers, like today, you can't ask any private company that they should not give out a request for RFP and indicate a particular product they want. So with this, I think we have to do look at corporate governance in the sector. We have to look at interference. We have to look at failure of investment in infrastructure. Then deployment of technology. Technology is there. You can patrol your line. You can do so many things with it. And even in pipelines, technology is being used. So, and as I'm talking to you now, the SCADA, people have been talking about SCADA. SCADA has been there since before I joined NEPA. And believe you me, Nigeria is the headquarters of system collapse. In 2010, Nigeria had about 42 system collapses in 2010. In 2014, yes, they had 13. I'm just looking at it on my computer. They had 13. In 2019, they had 10. We're even lucky to reduce it. So this year we have only 6. I have had one of the uncles in the studio say 3 system collapse in a month. I must tell you, there was a day we had 3 system collapse in a day. But because of the severity, we were not able to notice it. But those of us who are inside, we knew it happened 3 times. So the system is fragile, and there is
thank you so much, Engineer Kassim, for your contribution there. You have given us some solutions to, some of these challenges and tackling these challenges. The need for us to strengthen the governance system and also to, do away with the political and social interferences in the system, which is very, very, very important. Earlier, Engineer Mehaja, you talked about the need for us to modernize the power infrastructure. And you said that it will take not less than 20 to 25 years.
Yes, then that was what I advised.
So what time frame would you say it's feasible now?
Now it could be lesser. You need a full 2 terms of governance to have this stopped, because you see there are 2 major issues associated with stability. This infrastructural deficit and the already bad things we've done into the system, whereby misplacement of infrastructure where they don't need it destabilize the system. So to correct that, you cannot go and remove. You only need to provide where you need it now, and absolutely there. No any political person that will come say, you must take it, I am so-so, you must take it to my village, you must take it to my state. This has to be stopped. It's only the president that can do that. And he must have someone close to him who can tell him where they hide such kind of or such kind of practice are stopped. So that is that. Number 2, with all internal purposes, Nigerians particularly the stakeholders, must first agree that we're in trouble. Must secondly be ready to really face the trouble. And lastly, with the resolve to solve it. And all other issues that will stop us from getting to our objectives must be looked, step down and face the reality. That is the most difficult aspect, I must be frank with you. Are Nigerians, the stakeholders, those who are the state of affairs, ready to face the reality? Which I tell you, we are not yet ready. So we will just be blaming this, blaming that.
Why are we not ready?
Because of our mindset is, I want to be this, I want to have this, I want to build this. Everybody is going to grab what he can grab. You see, this thing is multifaceted, it's complex, and it's not so easy. You see, we abuse, is it Golden Brown that say Nigeria are fantastically corrupt. We started shouting. But it's the truth. It's the truth. With all a sense of humility and respect to Nigerians. Because I am a Nigerian. I'm also abusing myself if I should. So which I don't expect. But I have to say
accept the
truth.
reality so that you can now make
correct
changes.
it.
Yes.
So this is the first step. Secondly, the government must recognize that and then take a tough decision like this issue of emergency. Maybe this issue of Procurement Act, even if you want to do it, you have run into problem. Let me give you an example. The issue of there was approval given by Mr. President to support three East African states, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, and one of them I can't remember. So there was a delegation to be led by Minister of Foreign Affairs. For 3 times, 2 consecutive times, we could not secure the flight. You know, it's a presidential delegation. So I was in a fix when the tower shouldn't fail. I went to SGF office then. I was so unhappy. If the president, we stopped them this week. The president, the head of governments in that country could not travel, waiting for us. We failed. The second time, I have to go outside with, link with the then chief of defense, chief of air staff, to improvise so that we couldn't fail the second time. So such kind of things in governance are so much that constrain. That's why I say, if you now blame the management, believe me, if you are there, you discover that their hands were tied. Of course, there could be some other weaknesses on their own part, but majorly, this political influence is a major issue. If you don't do as they want, they will kick you out. Before you know, they don't have the president. You don't have the ears of the president. Before you know, someone big shot, maybe a politician, he may not be even the minister. He's with the president. Start black painting you, and before you know, you are a bad man.
All right. Thank you very much, Engineer Mehaja. It's so much about corruption and political interference in governance issues. But Engineer Mohammed, as part of solutions, is it possible for northern governors to come together, for instance, given the situation at hand, to come together, examine the Mambila project, take it over as a group, and execute for the benefit of its people?
Yes, in fact, Mambila hydropower will not only be a solution to stable power supply in northern Nigeria, the entire northern Nigeria, is actually a solution to the current power supply, inadequate power supply that we are having in the country. From history, the Mambila power project, I have been actually an advocate of that project, and I have actually worked severally on that project. I am still working on that project. There is nowhere in Nigeria that you have from one source, one single source, the capacity to generate more than 3,000 megawatts of power in Nigeria, more than Mambila. So if Mambila generates 3,000 megawatts with all the facilities, transmission, distribution, evacuation capacity, and then at a particular spot you can take full delivery of 3,000 megawatts, as against now that what we currently are distributing or evacuating is about 5,300 megawatts, according to the Minister of Power. It means the solution to stable power supply in Nigeria majorly will come from Mambila.
So why
now,
have the state governors not considered
yes,
it?
The issue is the politics of Mambila goes beyond the state. But I think at this particular time, it is so critical that the northern state, I expect, they will take advantage of the situation. That if now a whole northern area will be yanked off as a result of activities of vandals and bandits, you have to start thinking of what will happen tomorrow. Tomorrow is to take charge of Mambila hydropower and tell the government, okay, we are going to take over this as a business entity, as a business solution. If we generate this power, we're going to feed the grid. And then with the arrangements that we currently have on the ground, whatever power is fed into the grid is accounted for and paid for. Already we have Nigerian bulk electricity trader, MBET. MBET will now settle the differential power that is generated from Mambila, and then it will be paid for. So northern states can now have adequate power supply that they generated. Power supply, power generation is a business. It's a big business.
It is.
And now that the whole region is in blackout for 7 days, like I said before, it is so phenomenal that in the north now, you just are hearing it because you are here. But what is actually on the ground in the north, it is sad. Therefore, the northern government, I expect, the northern governors will take over that project and deliver the project in record time in order to avoid future occurrence of this kind of mess that we have found ourselves.
The minister already said that within 5 days that the power will be restored. Do you think it's feasible?
Well, your guess is as good as mine.
Well, I don't have a guess.
All right. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Engineer Mr. Idris Muhammad, former CEO, Kaduna Electricity Distribution Company, Power Infrastructure Consultant and Lead Consultant to Nigeria Embassy in Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for your contribution this morning.
Thank you.
We believe that the necessary authorities are listening to us. Also, I just also want to thank Engineer Mustafa Mahaja, a former Director General, National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, and experts in power system planning and development. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure.
All right. Also, we want to thank Engineer Tasiu Sahad, who has labored Nigeria as the headquarters of system collapse. So thank you so much for coming and for your contribution this morning. Well, that's Good Morning Nigeria for today. Thank you so much for staying with us. I am Ademola Adeoye.
And I'm Victor Azu. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow.